Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Fluent and Fearless. This is a podcast where we talk about speaking clearly, confidently, and without fear in any situation. Hence the name, Fluent and Fearless. I'm Katherine Arthur, a pronounced speech and accent specialist. I'm a speech-language pathologist and a radio broadcaster. Now, whether you're a speaker of English as a second language or a native speaker of English who's looking to improve your communication skills, you're in the right place. Actually, everyone who's here is in the right place, so come on in. Let me start today with a question. Have you ever finished a Zoom meeting and thought to yourself, why does my voice feel tired? Or maybe you've noticed your voice sounds flatter, tighter, or less confident online than it does in person. If so, you're not imagining it. Today, we're talking about how Zoom and virtual meetings have changed the way we use our voices, and why so many professionals are experiencing what's often called Zoom fatigue. We will explore today what Zoom fatigue actually is, why Zoom meetings are more vocally demanding, and practical, realistic tips to help your voice sound clearer, stronger, and more confident online. I'm Katherine Arthur, a pronounced speech and accent specialist, and come along with me as we take a look at how remote video calls can change the way your voice sounds and feels, and how you can regain your natural clarity, projection, and presence on screen and face-to-face. That's all coming up on Fluent and Fearless. Now, before we dive into today's topic, let me ask you something. Do you feel that your American English speaking skills could use some improvement? Are misunderstandings or difficulty being understood creating challenges in your professional or your social life? Well, at Pronounced Speech and Accent Specialists, we understand how these experiences can affect confidence, comfort, and opportunities. And you don't have to navigate them alone. Pronounced speech and accent specialists are experts in customized accent modification training. We work with adults who speak English as a second language, and we help them refine their speaking skills, improve clarity, and feel confident in every conversation. Now, would you like to speak American English more naturally and effectively? Would you like to feel more comfortable and confident in any communication situation? Now, that's absolutely possible, and we're here to help. Visit pronouncespeech.com to learn more. And remember, you can get started for free. Pronouncespeech.com, that's the place. Your voice deserves to be heard and understood. Start your journey today to becoming fluent and fearless. That's pronouncespeech.com. Now, just what is Zoom fatigue? Well, this is something that I know about firsthand. My career as a speech and accent specialist and a radio broadcaster requires me to spend many hours every week communicating virtually. Here's what I've learned. Zoom fatigue is not a medical condition. It's more of a physiological response. When we communicate virtually, our voices are doing more work than they were designed to do. Think about it. Audio is compressed on a virtual meeting. Your visual feedback is limited, and delays and glitches will disrupt the natural communication rhythm. As a result, many professionals will unconsciously speak more carefully, reduce their vocal variety, in other words, their voice becomes flatter and less natural. You may hold tension in your throat, jaw, and or shoulders and not breathe properly while speaking. And finally, a lot of people on virtual meetings will push their voice instead of supporting it. Over time, all of this leads to vocal fatigue, reduced clarity, and a voice that doesn't quite sound like you. Our voices on remote calls can become lower energy and softer, and studies have shown that people naturally reduce their vocal energy when they're speaking to someone on a screen. Your brain will interpret the person you're speaking with as being close by, and it starts to shrink your voice. Over time, this can become a habit. And this is one of the reasons why virtual meetings are so fatiguing. Now think about it. In face-to-face communication, your brain relies heavily on nonverbal cues, such as eye contact, facial expressions, and body language. But on Zoom, a lot of these cues are missing or they're delayed. So your brain will compensate by working harder. And on a virtual meeting, you're processing multiple faces at the same time on a screen. You're also monitoring your own appearance. You're listening to imperfect audio, so you might miss some of those audio cues. And often hearing your own voice played back to you can be confusing as well. So all of this creates some constant monitoring. This in turn increases your tension, and tension, that's the enemy of a good voice. So as you can see, Zoom changes your vocal quality. Now let's talk more about how this shows up in your voice. Many professionals will notice a flatter or more monotone sound to their voice. This in turn results in reduced projection. In other words, you're not getting your voice out there. And there's a lot more frequent throat clearing, which really isn't good for your vocal cords. You end up with a feeling of pushing your voice instead of naturally supporting it. And all of these things together, combined, result in some fatigue after a long meeting. Now, these effects are not about skill or professionalism. They're about the virtual environment itself. Zoom changes how sound travels, how feedback is received, and how comfortable the voice feels using its full range. And all of the things that we've talked about so far, well, research backs it up. In 2021, Professor Jeremy Bailenson at Stanford University's Virtual Human Interaction Lab published one of the first large-scale studies documenting what many of us now call Zoom fatigue. In other words, the mental and physical exhaustion that comes from frequent video conferencing. More than 10,000 people were surveyed in this study to help understand how extended use of video calls can affect energy and well-being. Now, here's some key findings from the Stanford study. For one, video meetings can feel more tiring than in-person interactions because they require constant, heightened attention to faces, eye contact, and nonverbal cues. Our brains work harder to interpret social signals on screen than they do in real life. Also, seeing yourself on camera adds strain. The self-view triggers what researchers call mirror anxiety, a form of self-focused attention that makes people overly aware of how they look or come across. Also, people feel trapped, according to the study. Unlike real conversations where you can move about or stretch or shift your position, video calls tend to keep users in one spot, which adds to some physical tension and fatigue. And a final key finding of the study, women reported higher levels of Zoom fatigue than men did. In the study, about 14% of women said they felt very or extremely fatigued after video meetings, and this compares with roughly 5% of men. The researchers linked this difference in part to greater self-focus triggered by self-view. There were other factors involved too in this study that contribute to Zoom fatigue, and these include long meetings, very short breaks, personality differences, age, and even race. These were associated with different fatigue levels, suggesting the experience isn't quite the same for everyone. So now let's take a closer look at what the Stanford study found, the 4 key mechanisms behind Zoom fatigue. Number 1, excessive unnatural eye contact. On video conference calls, everyone's face and eyes are constantly visible, even when people aren't speaking. That persistent close-up gaze is far more intense than the natural eye contact you experience in person. This eye contact usually shifts and breaks as people look around, take notes, or glance away. But in Zoom meetings, a sustained hypergaze increases social stress and mental effort. Number 2, seeing yourself on screen or mirror anxiety. Most platforms show your own video feed back to you like an ever-present mirror. According to the researchers, this self-view triggers self-monitoring and self-criticism, which adds to psychological strain and also distracts you from the conversation. The 3rd key mechanism behind Zoom fatigue, according to the Stanford study, reduced mobility and physical constraint. In face-to-face interaction, you can naturally move, shift your position, and adjust your focus. On video calls, you're more or less locked in a camera frame, which limits your movement and contributes to physical restlessness and fatigue over time. And then the 4th key mechanism behind Zoom fatigue, according to the Stanford study, increased cognitive load for nonverbal communication. Now, in person, nonverbal cues like body language, eye contact, and gestures are processed automatically by the brain. But on video conference calls, these signals are fragmented or even muted, so you need to work much harder to send and interpret them. That extra mental effort adds up, and it tires you out. These key mechanisms together help explain why back-to-back video meetings can feel so draining compared with in-person conversations, even if the content is similar. So, what can help? Well, the research and follow-up reporting highlights simple strategies like reducing self-view, allowing audio-only time, shortening meeting durations, and giving breaks between calls. All of this will help reduce the cognitive and emotional load of video conferencing. So let's explore these practical ways to reduce Zoom fatigue. Number 1, turn off self-view whenever possible. Seeing yourself on screen, or the self-view, increases self-monitoring and tension. If the platform allows it, hide your self-view so you can focus on the conversation instead of how you look or how you sound. Most people report feeling noticeably more relaxed within minutes. Now, a second practical way to help reduce Zoom fatigue includes creating more physical space from the screen. You can position your camera farther away so faces appear at a more natural conversational distance. This reduces the intensity of constant eye contact and helps your brain register the interaction as less stressful. Number 3, build in some movement. Even small movement helps. Stand up for part of the call, shift your position, or stretch your shoulders, even pace during audio-only portions. Movement reduces physical restlessness and it helps regulate energy and focus. A fourth practical strategy to help reduce Zoom fatigue includes audio only and use it strategically. Not every interaction needs video. Turning the camera off for check-ins, updates, or listening-only portions reduces the cognitive load while still allowing effective communication. Number 5, shorten meetings and protect yourself during transition time. Back-to-back video calls, they just add to your fatigue. Even 5 to 10 minutes between meetings allows your brain and your voice to reset. When possible, opt for 25 or 45-minute meetings instead of full hours. Now, the number 6 practical strategy to help reduce Zoom fatigue includes reducing exaggerated nonverbal performances. What do I mean by that? Well, on video, a lot of people will nod too much, smile too much, or overproject their voice in order to look engaged during the call. Remind yourself, you don't need to perform during a video call. Clear communication is enough. And the last practical strategy, number 7, be mindful of vocal effort. Video calls often cause people to speak louder, speak in a higher pitch, or with more tension than usual. Take a pause, take a breath, and allow your voice to stay grounded and natural. This alone can reduce fatigue significantly. So the big takeaway so far is that Zoom fatigue is not a personal weakness. It's a predictable physical response to an unnatural communication environment. But small, intentional adjustments can dramatically improve your comfort, clarity, and presence. So now let's take a look at some practical ways to improve your voice on Zoom. And it's all good news. Small changes can make a big difference. Number 1, just start with some breathing. Before a meeting, take a moment to breathe. Inhale through your nose and then exhale slowly through your mouth and let your shoulders drop and relax. Relaxed breathing like this immediately reduces tension and it also improves your vocal clarity. Number 2, make some adjustments in your posture. Now, when it comes to speaking and voice, posture matters a lot more than you think. So try sitting slightly forward in your chair, keeping your feet flat on the floor, and be sure to lengthen your spine. Good posture allows your breath and your voice to work together. Number 3, a good way to improve your voice on Zoom is to use just a little bit more vocal energy. Now, on Zoom, sound becomes a bit compressed. That means you might need some clearer articulation, slightly stronger emphasis while speaking, and be more intentional when you speak. Now, a fourth way to improve your voice on Zoom includes slowing down and using some pauses. Many professionals tend to rush on Zoom. Maybe they just want to get it over with in a hurry. I'm not sure. But instead of doing that, try to pause between your ideas. Let the important points that you're making land with your audience and give your listeners time to process. Putting some pauses in there in natural places increases your clarity of speech, and it also makes you look more confident. And a final way to improve your voice on Zoom includes just warming up your voice. Now, even a short warm-up helps. That can be as simple as some gentle humming or saying the key phrases in your presentation aloud. A warm voice, it sounds steadier, clearer, and more confident, and it will be less tense for you. Now, give all those strategies a try before your next Zoom meeting. And in the meantime, here's an important reminder. Your effectiveness is not measured by how perfect your voice sounds. Not at all. It's measured by clarity, presence, and connection. When your voice feels supported and comfortable, your message comes through more clearly, and your confidence will follow. So here's my closing thoughts. Zoom has definitely changed the way we work and the way we sound. And if your voice feels tired, flat, or strained, it's not a personal failure. It's a natural response to a demanding communication environment. But with awareness and a few intentional adjustments, you can reclaim a voice that sounds clear, professional, confident, and authentically you. So thanks so much for spending this time with me today. I really appreciate it. And I hope that these simple strategies help you to feel more energized and focused the next time you log on to a virtual meeting. Please feel free to share this episode with a friend or a coworker because let's be honest, just about all of us are living the Zoom life these days. And if there's a topic that you want me to cover in a future episode, I would love to hear from you. You can visit my website at pronouncespeech.com and send your questions my way. I really enjoy connecting with you and hearing what's on your mind. Now, before we wrap up, I just want to speak directly to those of you who speak English as a second language. If you've ever worried about your pronunciation or felt held back because of how you sound, please know this. I'm here to help. My goal is for you to become fluent and fearless, and I know you can get there. Working on your speech or pronunciation does not mean that your accent is a problem, not at all. It means that you value clear, confident communication. It means you're investing in yourself. Accent modification, also called pronunciation training, is about empowerment. Your voice matters, and your ideas certainly matter too. And when you can share them without hesitation, without worry, without embarrassment, you're free to focus on what really counts. And what counts is connecting with people, building relationships, and showing up as your full, authentic self. Now, whether your goal is career growth, greater confidence in everyday conversations, or both, accent modification can give you the advantage that you're looking for. If you're ready to explore what accent modification can do for you, visit pronouncespeech.com. There you'll find information about pronounced speech and accent specialists, and you can also book a free assessment with me, Katherine Arthur. No cost, no obligation. It's a relaxed, conversational way to learn how accent modification might support your goals. Again, pronouncespeech.com. Now, get out there, turn that spark into a flame, everybody, and be sure to connect with us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Pronounced Speech and Accent Specialists. I'm Katherine Arthur. That's Katherine with a K, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Connect with me. I'd really like that. Again, Katherine Arthur here. Thanks for listening. I will talk to you next time on Fluent and Fearless.